Hello beautiful people, welcome back to another MD Fish Tanks build video. Recently I saw some guppies. Oh guppies, yeah, but they're amazing. They're like special ones, specialist ones. They've got males, they've got females. Rosetail Guppies they're called because their tails look like roses. They're absolutely amazing and I want to do a setup for them. And this tank up here is the one that I want to be doing it in. So we've got quite a sort of jungly look going on in quite a few of the tanks, except for the new Tetra one, which I think, well, it is a jungly look, but it's still a lot more sort of aquascapey, do you know what I mean? It's a lot more like the structure that you'd see in like proper traditional aquascapes. But these two here and that one there, to be honest, are quite jungly. This one down here is very much just a holding tank, or a shrimp tank, to be honest. You keep it quite basic. You can see all the shrimp, see them when you feed them, and yeah, it works out really well. But this one above it, which is a 60 centimeter tank, so it's 2 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. It's got a really nice twin star light on it as well, so high-end lighting. I was thinking, why don't I use this to do like a proper not high tech, that's the wrong word, a sort of higher energy, I don't know, like a proper aquascape. I'm not putting CO2 in it, and it's only gonna have a little like internal filter just to push some water around. And we got great news again, guys. API and Aquarian coming in with a sponsored video for us. Now it's because of companies like these that I'm able to have such an awesome studio. You guys know this, you've been watching for a long time, but if you haven't, I'm going to be using some products from both companies throughout the video. It's not nothing new. I've used all of this stuff for the last 3 to 4 years. It's the only sort of products I use fish food wise and for different chemicals and testing inside of the tanks as well. So we're going to be using these products shortly on the build. But before that, I just want to show you something with the Aquarian food. So I've set up this tank here, which is the new Tetra tank. I've got to show you the feeding in this. Okay, so I've got my Aquarian food. I'm going to do a little taplet, and they all know that's food time now. They're trained. Look, they're all coming over. I've got to show you though when they all go for it. So there's a lot of floating plants at the moment, but I just like to sprinkle at the front, look, in the gaps. And as they start to bite at it, it brings it all down into the water column. And then especially the red eye tetras. There we go. Hang on. The red eye tetras are like piranhas. You can just see them straight at the top. They're super fast as well. Look at that. These fish go nuts for it. This is nowadays my most fun tank to feed. Really, really nice setup actually, and it's settled in beautifully. It's just doing so good. There's not a single bit of algae, maybe a tiny little touch of it on the glass, but other than that, it's just doing so good. I've just basically left it alone. It's not had one water change since I set it up, not at all. I'm not saying don't do water changes, by the way. I'm saying do them when it's needed. And that is actually where the master test kit comes into play. When I do a new setup like this one was, I always test the water every day for at least a week and just see what's going on. If I don't get any nitrite spikes or any ammonia spikes, I just leave the water. I mean, for this one, it took me a good week before I actually put any fish in anyway, so it was fine. I just left it, watched the water parameters, let it all settle in, and it's done really well. But yeah, don't be doing like fishing cycles and things like that unless you've got a test kit. I know old school guys are going to be like, I never had one. Okay, well that's fine because you know what you're doing, but for people that are having any problems, this is essential if you ask me. So yeah, super fun tank, love feeding it, but back to the build. So the first thing that I want to do is decide on my wood. I'm going to get that in there first this time instead of setting up a base, because in the more sort of, I suppose, nature style aquariums or the proper aquascaped ones, I like to do a shallow sort of decorative sand at the front. It looks a bit different then to having the jungle style ones. I don't know why it does, it just does, okay? So we need wood, and I've got some really interesting pieces, got some nice bits up there. Some bigger bits at the top, it's probably too big for this size tank. Some of these that are in here are probably gonna work really well. That's a good piece right there. I'm just gonna get some in and just see how it looks. I really like how that looks. It's got like a to it, do you know what I mean? I actually want it a little bit tighter in though. I think it'll be good just to glue these pieces together, and then that'll lock it in place. Actually, now that I'm here, they're following really good lines. Scrub that, I'm not gonna glue these pieces together. I will put rocks all around the base though to sort of border it up, if you like. It's hard to explain, but like it's quite good having a rock area in that sort of strip along there. I'll also get more twigs like these and bring them all into the foreground as well. And yeah, just build it up as we go. I think I want a little bit more here as well. It's all about finding the perfect pieces, or not finding the perfect pieces, but finding the pieces and making them work for the layout. Because not everyone's got hundreds of pieces to choose from, have they? Oh yeah, and I'm not worried about like flat edges and things at this stage, because we can fill that in with anything really. And rocks, we can use moss, we can use ferns. Yeah, don't worry about that at this stage. Oh, boom, absolute boom. I don't know why I said boom. I'm still in that mode, but yeah, absolutely loving that. There's so much detail, interest. It's going to add depth as well because we can add plants foreground, mid-ground and background, but at different heights. We can have good height in the mid-ground, which really, really does work well with any kind of naturescape, really. You do want a lot of focus in this whole area here. And then it makes everything else kind of work. A bit of nothing in this area, so like a negative space, and then all your focus is drawn there and it gives you depth. Yeah, we've got to get some rocks in here now. I'm just going to put them all in, and I've got loads available as well. I really like that so far. All I've basically done is filled in any gaps with rocks that sort of look like they fit the shape. And that means now there's contact points with the rocks actually on the wood as well. So the next stage is just to glue everything so it's all stuck together. Just a little bit of glue in each contact point, you know, like on that piece of wood you can see there, look, it's touching, a little bit there touching, you know, just a little bit dotted everywhere. You can barely notice it and it works really well. So we now have everything completely set in place. Now I really do recommend you take your time with this stage and make sure it is properly locked down. Give it the time it needs to glue hard as well. Tap test, everything's locked in. We can now move on to the next stage, which is putting nutrients into that back section. And maybe in the front section as well, actually. I'm not sure yet. So I'm gonna start off with a little base layer of Nutri-Base. I've got this here. Oh, is that one? Stuff is way more heavy than it should be. So this has basically got like biological bacteria. It's got bacteria in it. It's got soil. It's got like crushed lava rock. It's just a really, really good starting sort of layer. I've been using it in quite a few of my tanks recently as well. You know, this one here has got it. This one here, which is absolutely flying, has got it. I put it in this one as well, the betters, and of course the rainbow fish tank as well, which is thriving. So I'm going to use it again. Why not? So I've got a little pot here with the Nutri-Base. You really don't need a huge amount. I'll probably only use a couple of these. And I'm going to pour it in this back section. So that it's locked behind the rocks. It doesn't matter if a little bit comes forward at all, but you know, majority of it behind the rocks. So you can see I've just sort of flattened it out, and a little bit of it goes a long way, to be honest. So on top of this, I'm actually going to put even more nutrients, and I'm going to use the API root tabs that I use all of the time. For years I've been using them now. Many of you long-term viewers will know how much I love these. I basically use them in every single scape. And I think over the years we've had some pretty amazing planted tanks, haven't we? And I've got a packet that's been opened. I've only used half. Now for a sort of big tanks like these 4-foot ones, I'd use a full pack. But for a little one like this, which is half the size, I'm going to use half the pack. So 5 tablets will be plenty for what we need for this one. If you guys want a budget and you haven't got a huge amount of cash available, I'd recommend just buying the root tabs and sand. The two together will work absolutely brilliantly. I'm adding more and more nutrients just because I've got high powered lighting and I know that the plant's roots are going to use it. I'm also good at reducing algae nowadays as well, which is another thing you want to be careful of when adding too many nutrients. But if you were just to go API root tabs and some sand on top, that would work really, really well as well. So I've added the root tabs, the crushed root tabs, just a little dusting in that foreground section, which is going to work really well because it means we can still have a small amount of sand. We won't really be able to plant into it. We had to put plants near or on rocks. So like for instance over here, we've got some HC for instance. We don't actually have to plant that into sand. I can place it on rocks with a little bit of glue and eventually it will try and sort of spread into the sand. It will find the nutrients itself, so we don't actually have to plant it, and that's going to work perfectly in that foreground area. You might notice at the back here there's something brown, so that is aquatic compost. It's the sort of stuff that you buy for ponds and you put them in these little baskets and put your lilies in. It doesn't float because it's had all its organics already sort of floated off, but we will need to cap it with a sand because it will just make the water really sort of murky and horrible, but it's going to work for really long-term nutrients. We've got way more than enough nutrients in there now to keep us going with a load of plants. So on top of all of this, it's just a capping. I'm going to put gravel close up to the rocks at the back so it stops anything migrating through. Then I'll just put sand over all the rest and then a different decorative one in the foreground. And now I'm just adding in some aqua soil at the back. This will be our area to plant in. You can even use sand if you want, but I've got some spare. And to be honest, aqua soil is the absolute best if you can afford it. If you can't, use sand and allow those nutrients to just go into it from the waste of the fish. It takes more time, you will get there, but aqua soil is just brilliant for getting things going to start with. So that is nutrients at the back sorted, planting medium sorted, as in the aqua soil with a bit of sand and stuff on top as well over in that corner, just to sort of blend it slightly. Now we need some detail in this foreground area, so I'm going to add in some little stones just to sort of make the transition a bit smoother between the rock and the sand. So that is now everything set up and ready to go. We've got some good depth in that background area to be able to plant into. All the plants are ready as well. I've got a lot of them down in this bucket, which I've managed to get from other setups. Look at how fresh and healthy all that sage is. So I'm going to go ahead and start placing them in. I'm going to go for the sage in the background. I want a really sort of cool grassy effect. And then I'm going to use the Monte Carlo and some of the HC in the foreground area, just rammed in crevices and things. The roots will find their way into the nutrients underneath, so we're all good for that. So first up, I'm gonna go with the sage that I've got here along the back. Now look at this. We've got some long pieces. Some got a little bit of algae on, so I'll take those off, or not use them, because I know most of them are perfect. Like that one's perfect. I've got so many here, I don't actually need this many, but there we go, look at those. So the sage is to go right in the back. I'll start off in this corner where I've left no room for me to do this. I find that if you start in one corner and work your way across to the other, it sort of locks itself down. I mean, it's a little bit hard to show you this, but so I think that's enough of the sage. That stuff grows crazy fast and spreads everywhere. So we start off with a good compact amount at the back there, and I've left a gap in front of it, you see, to be able to put more stem plants. Now I've got Ludwigias and I've got Rotala rotundifolia. So I'm thinking I want a big pocket of red there, and I'll use rotundifolia in the other areas. So this is our rotundifolia. It's rotundifolia green, so it doesn't get those sort of pinky hues to it. It stays pretty green. It gets a little bit, but not too much. Then we've got Ludwigia granulose and Ludwigia palustris super red. So we've got a good variety there. I'm going to fill out a lot of the gaps between the sage with the rotundifolia though. Now I've attached this little group in a little ceramic ring with a little bit of paper towel, and that should keep it locked down. I just find that sometimes it's better to just put them in groups like this, and it's easy to move them if you need to as well, and it just does keep it fully locked down because there's a lot of plant there and it's going to want to float up. Right, that's the Rotalas done. It looks a bit of a mess at the moment. Once we fill it up, we can sort of move them around if they need to. And now I've got the Ludwigias to go in. I want to go in this section here, good focal point area. Okay, I think this is potentially going to look awesome. I'm just going to fill up with water now and add in the details that I want in the foreground with the smaller plants, because I can stick them to rocks and just place them wherever I want. But yeah, for now, fill it up. I don't have to worry about keeping it all wet then and it drying out. You can just take your time after you've got that water in. There we go, filled up. Now some of the plants, they look a little bit sorry for themselves at the moment, a bit drooped over. They've been in the bucket for like 2 or 3 days with no light, so that's why. What will happen over the next few days is it'll all start standing up and like facing or growing towards the light, and it just looks so much better when it does that, a little bit more natural. But in the meantime, we can get on with adding more details. I quite like the amount of wood we can see. I quite often put a lot of plants on my wood and you can't, yeah, we'll ignore that. And you can't actually see it, but this looks so good. I want to keep a lot of this wood on show, I think, and only add the details in the little rocky areas. I am fancying a little bit of Anubias as well as the Monte Carlo and the HC. So it's now the next day, and as you can see, everything's not quite gone according to plan. Yeah, you may have had this yourself, and you may have just thought, what have I done wrong? I've not done anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Well, kind of, I suppose. I didn't put a filter in this before I left. I put the last plants in, I had to leave. So I've come in the morning and this is what we're left with, like a sort of bacteria soup. Now this is absolutely fine, it's completely normal. Any new wood will do this to the water. It'll also get a weird white fungusy thing on it as well, probably in certain areas. Completely normal. I can sort all this out with a water change, and also having a filter in there as well sort of moves it around. But on your first fill up, you'll probably get this even with a filter. So I've got a little filter that I can put in there, but I want to drain the water down. I want to sort some of the plants out a little bit more. Even after a day, they're starting to stand up nicely now, which is good. I don't want them all sort of bent over. And I think I'm going to add a little bit more substrate. The reason being, look, is this plant's already came up. So, I mean, I can add a little bit more in there. I'm going to bring it up to about that height, and it just give more of a sort of anchor to all the plants. So I've now taken out some of the plants that weren't secure, filled up a little bit of soil in that back area. Now I'm just going to fill it back up again, and this time put a filter in there and get it flowing straight away. So I've really tried rectifying the situation. There's nothing I can do. I need to take the water out. I need to glue it all back down again. Now, why did this happen? I was just being too forceful with the pincers in a key point where it was glued. I was trying to get that Juncus repens right into that corner, which meant that I sort of jarred the glue, and it just, when one went, it just took the rest. Never mind, these things happen, we won't do that again. Right, we are sort of back where we were. The same sort of shapes, but I've added a rock in the top section, which kind of blends in a little bit apart from those ugly glue points that I've made on it with a little bit of tissue paper and cyanoacrylate glue. But I can hide it, it's not a problem. We can put a little fern in that area, some Anubias busis, that kind of thing. But it is secure, that's the thing. I can move it, tap it quite hard, and it's not moving at all. So that isn't going anywhere. I also built the substrate at the back up a little bit higher with a bit more sand as well. I just thought it would be easier then to be able to plant into a couple of layers of soil there. So the roots are definitely going to get nutrients that they need. I'm going to use all the plants I did before, but I feel like I want to use a little bit more detailed ones around the edging, like, you know, your Anubiases and your busis. I just think it just sets it off a little bit better and blends the plants into the background nicer as well in a more natural way. Right, the tank is replanted again. Basically, all the same plants, apart from this nice bit of Anubias we put in the foreground, which I actually really like, and the fish are going to look really good swimming in front of it because they're going to stand out. It's quite sort of flat, if you like. We've still got the Ludwigias at the back there, the reds, and I've also added a little bit of Java Fern Windelov there. And that's it really, everything else remains the same. It's very murky, I've just been disturbing all of that sand whilst I've been trying to make sure all the plants go in. Now, we can combat that really easily, but first I need to just change some of the stuff in the filter. We've got a coarse sponge, I need to put fine filter floss in there. So at the moment, the filter, oh no, not that side. Is it that side? So at the moment at the bottom we've got quite a coarse sponge. Swap that out and put in this really fine stuff, because we're going to add a product from API next that makes this go so clear very fast. And the product I'm referring to, of course, is AquaClear. So many of you who watch my channel already know how much I swear by this stuff. It's so good. Like, basically what it does is the dust particles in the water column, it binds them together and they sink, and then they get caught in the flow and get taken out of the filter, or taken out with the filter, I guess. And then, because what you need to do is just pull out your filter and then just clean the sponges, and basically that's trapped everything together. from the water column into it. And the good thing is with this product, you barely need any. You can overdo it. I've had people saying before, I used AquaClear, my water stayed cloudy, where you either used too much or you didn't have a fine enough sort of mesh or catcher in your filter. It makes the particles microscopic that stick together, remember, so you do need that filter floss system. You can't just have a coarse sponge. Like this sponge is way too coarse. It's got to be the fine filter floss. But it's very, very simple. For this whole tank, like 90 litres, I need like literally just under half a cap. And that's enough. It's going to clear it so fast. But remember, it normally gets a little bit worse before it gets better. But within an hour and a half, I'm gonna have a clear tank. And there we go, look, it's been a couple of hours and we are looking perfect, I would say, or at least very close to. Now, I've added in a couple of plants. I've got some Ludwigia pleistris green in the middle there, which I think is just filling that gap nicely. And I added some Hygrophila pinnatifida into some of the Anubias just to break it up a bit because it was quite blocky. Little details, you know. This is definitely a wild style look. And that is a decent amount of plants, to be honest. All of them though, well, almost all of them, are trimmings from other tanks. And that is very much the beauty of having planted tanks, is that once you've done that initial investment and you've learned to grow them, then you can just keep using them, keep growing them, trimming them, plant them in new tanks, because inevitably, if you get success in planted tanks, you're gonna get more tanks. It's just how it works. And yes, you guys know it by now, Leaf Zone, it's all I use, it's all I've used for years now, and it does everything I need. I think my plants, they speak for themselves in all the tanks around the place. Leaf Zone and root tabs have just been an absolute staple for like, it's going on 4 years now, isn't it, Kate? Wife's here. Is it 4 years? 3.5, something like that. Anyway, that's 4, okay. So yeah, it's been such a long time. I don't see why I would need to ever use anything else. It's just everything in one go. Leaf Zone, absolute king of fertilizers for me. And the good thing is it goes a long way as well. So this bottle is gonna last me ages if I've just got a tank like this. Obviously I've got loads of tanks, so I've got loads of these bottles, but for this size, all I'm gonna need is 1 capful. And then, because I want to, a little bit more. So yeah, you can just see there the sort of yellowiness to the water column. That all clears up very quickly. Leaf Zone, it actually contains iron and potassium. And then for everything else the plant needs, it's gonna get it from the waste from the fish, to be honest. Like, I don't dose anything in any of these tanks other than the Leaf Zone. Kate's just doing a glass scraping for me there. Jump back a sec, Kate. I just want to show them how, there you go. Look how red, look at the reds we're getting in there. So vibrant. This tank here again, so green. This one's pretty new set up. It's like a month old, a little bit less than that, but look at the colors already. Excuse the reflections. I normally block out behind me with a black curtain, but I'm just showing you quickly. Again, over here, the plants, they're just amazing, aren't they? And we can't forget the vibrancy, look, of the rainbow aquarium. Look at them, look, everything, even the red root floaters. Look at the red on that Ludwigia granulosa at the back there. Yeah, Leaf Zone, you can't beat it. But yeah, this is all ready to go now. We can go and get some fish from the shop. Hello, Matthew.
All right. All right.
All right. I've actually been in the shop for like 20 minutes because I was waiting for you to come off lunch.
That's a lie.
So I thought I knew what fish I wanted. I've come here to get them, and whilst I've been waiting for Matt to come back off his lunch break, I've seen some other ones that I think I now want. Hopefully you'll be with me on this.
What have you seen?
Okay, we'll go look.
Isn't it?
So you know how initially I was saying to you, me and Matt went to a fish auction yesterday on a Sunday, just a casual subject.
Yeah.
And I was saying how I want the Rosetail Guppies, yeah?
Yeah.
Which I still do,
yeah.
But I also want a feature.
Okay.
And I don't know if they can go together, but come this way. Follow me around my shop, Matt.
Yeah, okay. You know where you're going.
Excuse me, Jamie. That's exactly where I need to be.
He's measuring temperature.
Oh, you're temperature in?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So I'm thinking a few of the butterfly cichlids. Can that work?
Oh.
If it can't, that's fine.
Yeah, they're not bad, but it'd be risky.
When they pair up?
Yeah, that's the thing. They'd be fine when they're not paired up. They're a little bit more aggressive than most cichlids, like most community cichlids. They're a bit like a feisty keyhole cichlid. So I probably wouldn't risk it if it was me.
Some people would say as well, you're supposed to have a higher pH for guppies, lower pH for those, but we know that that doesn't actually matter nowadays, does it?
Not really, no. Like the African butterflies, I can't actually remember which river system they're from, but they'll probably be fairly adaptable, to be honest. Yeah. So you could probably, and the guppies have obviously been bred, those ones as well, the Rosetails are local.
Okay,
so they've been bred by one of our customers. So yeah, it's not as bad, but yeah, I think it'd be a risk aggression-wise.
Oh.
They are lovely. I keep looking at them for one of my tanks, and I just can't. I've just not pulled the trigger on it yet.
So you're suggesting if I have if I have these,
yeah,
they need to be species only in the tank?
No. So I would say that with faster moving fish, tetras, barbs, anything like that, they'd be absolutely fine. It would just be the slower moving, more flamboyant tails of the guppies that might be a little bit
I see.
too sort of, tempting for them.
Okay, well, perhaps I don't go with the Rosetails for this one. And no, I think I do. I think I'll do something separately for these. And above them as well, the Ivanacara.
Yeah, I want them too.
Why do they Ivanacara?
They're cool, aren't they? They are one of my favourite fish. They don't show much colour now, but they will get there. But you can see this male, he's gone now, but there's a male really kicking off in the middle. One? Might have been... it might have been that one. It might have been the one in the back that's a little bit darker. Oh, yeah? Yes, that's a... Whoa, he's got some brilliant colours. He is. I think he is protecting that feed. There you go, see? Hello. He's giving everyone a bit of grief, so... That would be my worry, is guppies are quite slow. And when he does that, whereas a tetra can fire out the way, the guppy's a little bit more docile and might not get out the way quick enough. I was just thinking, I thought that obviously the guppies occupy the top part of the water club. I thought they'd be down the bottom, but... They probably would be. But then when the babies... it's a risk. Okay, a risk that you wouldn't be willing to say yes to on camera. No, definitely I'll cut not. That out. Okay, we'll go with the Rosetails for this one, because it's a pretty tank. If I was going to do these, I think I want to do something a little bit more biotopy. Yeah, nature style would be quite cool. Like the rainbow fish tank would sort of suit them quite nicely. Rocks and wood and with that. Basically every tank, Matt. Yeah, it's sort of the same as everything. But to be fair, it's annoying that we didn't have them in when we done the 8-foot, because a group of them would have gone in the 8-foot really nicely instead of the jewels. I know the jewels look nice, but they would have looked good in there, to be fair. But I think, there's a few different African fish that you could get in with them if you wanted to go biotopy, or, like I say, fast-moving tetras and barbs and things like that would be perfect. Okay, Rosetails it is then. Cool. So over at the nano section, here are the Rosetails, and now I'm sure you can see why I'm interested. Yes, they're a guppy, but look, they're a great guppy. Look at that. They're really nice. Just that dorsal fin extension, the coloration in the tail. Yeah. I wanted them straight away, to be fair. And the females have also got the colour on the tail as well, not just completely bland. So, can you do me a nice group of those, please? Yeah. I don't think I want anything else with them, unless you think anything should go with them. You can do. There's loads that would go with them. Anything peaceful would go with them. It depends on what style you want to go for. Things like, if you want to stay on the nano side of things and you don't want to take the impact away from them, chili rasboras and phoenix rasboras. They're in with chilies, aren't they? Yeah, they're in with chilies at the moment. Okay, well, why don't we do a few chilies with them? Yeah, just little shoulder chilies, because then they're red and red. Yeah, and they've been in together. Yeah, they've already in together. They're friends with them now. They're friends. Yeah, they don't want to be split up. Yeah, I think that would work well. Yeah, I like it. I don't know if I'm going to need a clean-up crew. If I do, I'll come back for it. I've literally just set it up. So if I need to, I can add stuff at a later date, but there's nothing for the clean-up crew to eat just yet anyway, so... that's it, get a bit of stuff moving around in there and see how it goes, really. The guppies will take out some of the algae as well, so they might do it on their own. Yeah, that would be ideal. Okay, bag them up. So we're back in the studio. I've actually had the fish here now for a good number of days. After I collected them, I had loads to do, and I put them in a plant storage tank. They're doing great. It's actually time now to move them across to their new home. Yeah, I've got the fish down here, so look, there we go. There's one of the Rosetails. Now, whenever I put fish down here, they colour up beautifully, which is ideal for us putting them straight into the tank, so they're going to look great straight away. The only issue that I get is obviously I've got to scoop out all the plants to be able to get them. I suppose it's not that much of a big deal, is it? It's worth it, I think, for having a much better sort of fish putting in. Where's the chilies? There's a chili, there's a couple there. Again, nice colours on them already. So, look at that Rosetail. Amazing fish. It's the dorsal as well as the actual tail as well. It's just so, vibrant. Let's get them out. There we go, I've got them all then, the Rosetail Guppies, and there's the Chili Raspora. Only a small group of each, to be honest. I don't want to overcrowd this one. Just let it tick along nicely and just turn into something amazing. So first of all, I'm going to go with the Chili Rasporas, and hopefully they'll just all be comfortable in here. Stay out in the front so we can actually see them. Oh, look at the colours on them. They look so good under the twin star lighting. That's perfect. If they just want to stay huddling around those little areas, that'd be great. This is going to be one of those tanks where it's just not really massively obvious on the fish. So it'll hopefully draw you in. And as everything grows, it'll grow in a more compact way and just look so good within like a month or so. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it looks good now, but it'll just get better and better. Look at them all hiding in amongst it. Look, go on, fella. Yeah. Go find the group. And then for the stars of the show are Rosetail Guppies.
Look at those in there. What I love about them is that the females are so colourful as well, which you don't always get. Pride of place in the tank. And because it's mostly green, they're going to stand out in those green areas, but obviously not so much in the red. But they really, really do stand out as well against the gravel at the bottom. I'm loving how they look, especially this male. Look at him. He's like a prize male, isn't he? So because this is a new setup with a new filter, we need to add beneficial bacteria to the mix, and that's where Quick Start comes in. This is my cheat code. I use this all the time with every single setup, and it just means that I can basically put the fish in straight away, and I just know there's gonna be no problems. I've used this hundreds of times now on hundreds of setups. I'll also still test my water in the morning as well to make sure everything's good, because I don't think you should take chances on livestock if you're going to do like a fish in cycle, which is technically what this is called. But yeah, start with a small stocking level like I've got here. There's not a lot of fish here, is there? Add what it says on the back of the bottle and you should be absolutely golden. So for this, always shake up your bottles by the way guys. So for this size setup we're going to need 3 capfuls. 1, 2, 3. And then like I say, tomorrow I'll come in with my freshwater master test kit and I will test and make sure that there isn't any ammonia or nitrite, anything like that. If there is, I'll just do a 50% water change. And at that point, I won't need to add more beneficial bacteria, to be honest, because it's already in the filter, it's gonna be all over the surfaces, that kind of thing. Just drain the water down 50% and refill it again. And then again, the next day, I'll test again and I'll keep testing until it's showing signs that it's like sort of level, you're not seeing any ammonia, any nitrite. To be honest, usually that takes a couple of days, but in some tanks, I don't have to change water at all. It's just perfect straight away. It's just every tank is different. So a little bit different on this one. I've gone for more of a wild style look. It's kind of a rough sort of grown in look. It will definitely get better and more compact as time goes by. But plants like the Juncus repens that we've got down at the bottom really do add that wild look, I think. And personally, I think it works really well. Having these sort of amazing looking guppies, which look, I don't know, kind of non-natural in a way, against that natural looking background, it makes them pop and stand out massively. I'm an absolute sucker for guppies, but yeah, I think this will be the last guppy tank for a while. I know everyone also loves them because they're so easy to care for. You get a planted tank going and you can put them in and they'll just take off. Breeding is so fun with guppies as well because it's so easy. Basically get a group of females, put 1 or 2 males in, and before you know it, the tank's just going to be full with babies. And that's another benefit of doing the tank in this wild way. There is absolutely tons of hiding spaces. So the females will go to the back area, find their little crevice and give birth at some point, and the babies stay nice and low. Now if they stay low in a hidden planted area, they've got much more chance of not being picked off by males, or, you know, fish generally will eat anything that's small enough to go in their mouth, and that includes guppies as well. But if they can grow up a little bit in those compact areas at the back, they'll have much more of a chance of growing up to be adults. To avoid that, obviously we could take out females that are pregnant and put them into their own tank. That's one way of doing it. But to be honest, I like to just let things take its course. The strongest survive, and you know, eventually you're just going to be ended up with loads of them anyway. That's it for this one, guys. Make sure you click on one of the videos above now to just see some more builds.